So, I want you to imagine a scenario for a second. Let's say, starting tomorrow, you're forced to abandon every single wellness habit you've meticulously built over the years.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare for most people listening.
Right. Like, no more morning cold plunges, no more intricately timed workout routines. You have to throw out the heavy meditation apps, the complex gym splits, the endless rows of supplements sitting in your kitchen cabinet. All of it just gone.
Gone.
But in this scenario, you are allowed to keep just one single protocol, one thing to maintain your physical, mental, and spiritual health. What would you choose?
It's a genuinely difficult question because we are so conditioned to believe that optimization requires this massive, complex web of habits.
Yeah,
We really think we need a dozen different tools to fix a dozen different problems.
exactly. And it's exhausting just thinking about it, honestly. But what if there was one skeleton key? Just one unified protocol that actually unlocks human optimization from the ground up.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
Yes, we have an incredibly fascinating stack of source material today. It's centered around a master class from a figure known as Osman, widely referred to as the blind Muslim yogi.
And our mission today is to completely deconstruct Osman's highly specific methodology. We're going to look at why he firmly believes that one very specific type of breath work, pranayama, is the absolute foundation of everything.
But it's not just breathing.
No, not at all. We are going to break down the exact energetic diet he prescribes, the precise physical posture you have to hold, and, this is the crazy part, the mathematical breathing ratios he insists will safely awaken what is known as Kundalini energy.
But before we even get into the breathing ratios, because I know you are probably curious about what this breathwork actually entails, we really have to look at the architect of this protocol. Who is Osman?
Because his background is what makes this specific protocol so incredibly intriguing.
Exactly. We aren't talking about, an influencer who took a weekend retreat in Bali. Osman has been practicing yoga and meditation for roughly 50 years.
50.
Yeah, half a century. And he has been teaching for 46 of those years.
Which is a staggering amount of time to be immersed in a daily discipline. To put that in perspective, 50 years means he was exploring these deeply esoteric energy practices decades before they were commodified by the modern wellness industry.
Right, before the yoga pants and the branded mats.
Exactly. He's seen every trend come and go. And he has synthesized his approach from a lifetime of global study across the Far East, the Middle East, the West, and even integrating concepts from various scientific communities.
And his primary focus, the area where he actually applies this 50 years of knowledge, is intense. He is a master-level bioenergy healer, and he specializes specifically in critical care recovery and terminal illnesses.
Which is heavy.
It is. According to his bio, he utilizes telepathic healing capabilities. Now, I know for some of you listening, the word telepathic might trigger an immediate wave of skepticism. I get it. But let's look at how he frames his actual results.
Right, the data.
He claims a success rate of over 90% with patients who are facing terminal illnesses or who are literally sitting in the ICU. These are often people for whom all standard medical treatments, like chemotherapy, have just failed.
And that context is absolutely crucial. Osman is dealing with life and death scenarios. But we do have to make a very clear distinction here, one that Osman himself makes explicitly. His services are meant to act as a complementary enhancement to the medical field, not a replacement.
Yeah, that's a huge point.
He is not telling people in the ICU to unplug their machines and abandon their doctors. He is stepping in to address the subtle energetic failures in the body, trying to jumpstart the patient's internal healing mechanisms when Western medicine has basically exhausted its chemical and surgical options.
Right. He's working in tandem with the physical reality of the illness, and honestly, the dedication required to do this kind of heavy terminal illness energy work is hard to fathom.
It takes a toll.
It does. When someone who deals with that level of critical care recovery, someone who spends their life looking at the absolute extreme edge of human mortality, tells you that one specific daily habit is the foundational bedrock of all his energy and success, you sit up and pay attention.
You have to. Because what Osman has done is bridge the mystical and the pragmatic. If you look at the history of esoteric yoga, the practices to awaken Kundalini energy are often just buried under mountains of dogma, religious exclusivity, and intense guru worship.
Endless rules.
Endless rules.
Yes.
Osman strips all of that away. He focuses entirely on a results-oriented and time-efficient method. He has engineered a system designed specifically for the modern world, for people who do not have the time to go live in a cave in the Himalayas.
I love that. It's like he took 50 years of ancient code and optimized it for a modern operating system.
That's a great way to put it.
But here's the thing, and this might frustrate people who just want the quick fix. Osman says you cannot just jump right into this advanced breathing protocol. You have to prep the body first. You have to prepare the vessel.
Precisely. You cannot run high-voltage electricity through a frayed, rusty wire.
That is a perfect analogy. And that brings us to his nutritional foundation, the energetic diet. Before he even talks about inhaling or exhaling, he lays out a highly specific diet designed to, as he puts it, fast-forward your progress in pranayama.
The prep work.
Yeah. Now, the broad strokes are probably what you'd expect. He focuses on a whole foods, predominantly plant-based, or keto-leaning diet. But the absolute cornerstone of his daily routine is something he calls the raw cruciferous smoothie.
And we really need to look at the exact recipe of this smoothie because every single ingredient serves a functional, energetic purpose.
It's not just for taste.
Oh, definitely not for taste. Osman uses a standard 1.5-liter blender, which yields about 3 500-milliliter servings. The base consists of raw, cruciferous vegetables, specifically cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, or kale.
Okay, stop right there. Raw cauliflower, raw cabbage, blended into a drink. If you have ever tasted raw cauliflower juice, you know it is brutally, aggressively bitter. It is not something you sip casually by the pool.
It is intensely bitter.
Yeah.
But biologically, cruciferous vegetables are absolute powerhouses. They are incredibly nutrient-dense, and the reason he insists on them being raw is crucial.
Why raw specifically?
Blending them raw preserves the sensitive heat labile enzymes that are completely destroyed the moment you steam or roast them. You are drinking live cellular material.
But how do you actually swallow it without gagging? Because Osman actually has a brilliant, highly practical hack for this.
He does.
To cut that intense bitterness, he throws in one whole orange and one whole lemon, but he doesn't kill them. He throws the entire fruit, peels and all, right into the blender.
Which is fascinating because citrus peels are packed with essential oils, limon, and specific flavonoids that you just don't get from the flesh of the fruit. The intense aromatic oils in the lemon and orange rinds completely overpower the sulfur-like taste of the raw broccoli and cabbage.
It's a savage but effective culinary trick. So we have the raw veggies, the whole citrus fruits, and water, but then he adds the final essential ingredient, 4 tablespoons of flax seeds.
And Osman is incredibly strict about the flax seeds.
Very strict. He has a hard rule. They absolutely must be kept cold.
The temperature control is vital. Flax seeds are incredibly rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are highly volatile. If you expose them to heat, even just sitting in a warm kitchen cabinet for too long or blending them with warm water, the fats can oxidize and become rancid.
Which defeats the purpose.
Completely. It neutralizes their anti-inflammatory properties.
And he highlights these cold flax seeds for a few very specific reasons. First, they are a massive booster for nitric oxide in the blood. Second, they pack a huge protein punch, around 26 grams of protein per 100 grams. And third, those omega-3s we just mentioned.
The omega-3s are key.
Right, because Osman explicitly notes that these omega-3s remove inflammation markers in the body, which directly increases what he calls prana, or subtle life force.
Let's translate that energetic concept into physiological terms. Prana is often described as the subtle energy that flows through the nervous system. If your body is highly inflamed, say your gut lining is irritated, your joints are swollen, your immune system is constantly fighting off dietary irritants, your nervous system is effectively clogged. It is in a chronic state of low-grade defense.
Constantly fighting fires.
Exactly. By flooding the body with cold processed omega-3s and raw enzymes, you are aggressively lowering systemic inflammation. You're calming the nervous system down so that the prana, or the electrical signaling of the body, can flow without resistance.
It makes perfect sense. Lower the physical static, increase the energetic signal. And he rounds out this high-fat, keto-leaning approach by casually mentioning that he eats up to a full kilogram of peanuts a week.
A kilogram. That is a massive amount of fat-adapted energy.
He is literally fueling his body with raw plant fats to sustain his intensive energy work. But while what he puts in is fascinating, what he explicitly tells you to avoid is actually where it gets really interesting.
Yes, the dietary restrictions are quite specific.
So he says to keep red meat strictly under 200 grams a week. Okay, fairly standard advice for a plant-leaning diet. But then for someone making savory, vegetable-heavy meals, he drops a massive surprise. You must explicitly avoid onion, garlic, and chili.
For a lot of people, that sounds like a culinary death sentence. Onion and garlic are the foundation of almost every savory recipe on the planet.
Literally everything.
But this restriction is not about flavor or even standard digestion. It is deeply rooted in ancient yogic science and how food chemically interacts with the brain.
I really want to dig into this because it sounds crazy at first.
Yeah.
Why would garlic, which we are always told is a superfood for the immune system, be banned from this protocol?
To understand this, we have to look at how traditional yogic systems categorize food. In many ancient traditions, foods are divided into three categories based on how they affect the mind and energy: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic.
Okay, break those down.
Sattvic foods are things like fresh vegetables, seeds, and fruits. They promote clarity, purity, and a calm mind.
Which perfectly aligns with his raw, cruciferous smoothie.
Exactly. But onion, garlic, and chili fall into the rajasic and tamasic categories. Rajasic foods are stimulants. They ignite passion, heat, and restlessness in the body. Tamasic foods promote lethargy, dullness, or grounding heaviness.
So they pull you out of balance.
Right. In the context of advanced yoga, garlic and onions are considered heavily rajasic. They overstimulate the central nervous system and agitate the mind.
Okay, so it's not that they are physically bad for you in a standard medical sense, but they are energetic disruptors.
Correct. Imagine you were trying to cultivate extreme microscopic sensitivity to the subtle energy channels in your spine. That requires a profoundly quiet, perfectly still nervous system.
And garlic messes with that.
Yes. If you eat a meal heavy in garlic and chili, your heart rate naturally elevates slightly, your digestion kicks into overdrive, you might sweat, and your mind becomes subtly more active and aggressive. That chemical agitation counteracts the exact state of delicate equilibrium you are trying to achieve for advanced breath work.
Wow. It's like trying to balance a needle on its point during a minor earthquake. You just can't have that internal rumbling.
Precisely.
So you've choked down your bitter cabbage smoothie, you've cut out the garlic, you've primed your body with healthy fats, and your systemic inflammation is dropping. You have officially prepared the vessel. Now what do you do with it?
Now we have to talk about the physical architecture of the body. How do you physically position yourself to safely handle the immense energy you are about to generate?
This is where we get into the posture, and Osman does not mess around here. He strongly advocates for sitting cross-legged on the floor. But he specifically singles out one exact posture as the ultimate non-negotiable foundation for this work siddhasana, which translates to the accomplished pose.
And we really need to break down the exact physical geometry of Siksana because it is not just sitting crisscross applesauce. It is a highly engineered biomechanical lock.
Right. So if you're listening to this, picture this in your mind, or try it if you're sitting on the floor. First, you take your right heel and pull it all the way in, pressing it firmly into the perineum. That's the space at the very base of your torso, your root core.
The Muladhara chakra area.
Exactly. Then you take your left foot and place the left heel directly above the right heel, pressing it just below your navel. Finally, you tuck the toes of your left foot firmly between your right calf and thigh to lock it all in place.
It is an incredibly compact, tightly bound posture. And the why behind this specific arrangement is entirely about stabilizing the body's energy grid.
How so?
According to yogic science, the Kundalini energy rests dormant at the base of the spine. When you begin the intensive breathing ratios, you are effectively trying to wake that energy up and draw it upward.
And if it wakes up, it needs a clear, unkinked pathway.
Exactly. If the spine is bent or the pelvis is tilted incorrectly, the energy hits a physical roadblock.
Yeah.
Siddhasana physically locks the lower body so that the spine naturally erects itself into a perfectly straight, grounded antenna.
But Osman gives a very, very crucial warning here, a massive red flag. He says, under no circumstances should you lean back against a couch, a chair, or a wall while doing this. You have to keep your back and your spine completely free in open space.
This is a vital safety protocol.
Right.
If you are leaning against a wall, you are compressing the vertebrae and the subtle energetic pathways that run along the back of the spine.
The nadis.
Yes, the nadis. Osman warns that if the Kundalini energy begins to rise and your back is compressed against a surface, the energy can literally become blocked or physically stuck in the back.
Which sounds terrifying. He implies it can lead to severe physical discomfort or energetic imbalance. You do not want high voltage energy trapped in your lumbar spine.
No, you really don't.
But here's what I love about Osman. He is deeply pragmatic. He openly admits that he himself did not sit cross-legged for the first several decades of his practice. He actually used to meditate sitting on a couch.
I think that is a wonderful admission. It removes the intimidation factor.
It totally does.
It highlights that while Siddhasana is the ultimate goal, it is an acquired necessary skill for advanced energy work. It isn't just an aesthetic tradition you have to fake from day one to look like a proper yogi. It takes years for Western hips and knees to open up enough to hold that posture comfortably for an hour.
And he gives some incredibly actionable, forgiving advice for the listener right now who is thinking, my knees would literally snap if I tried that. He offers a brilliant workaround for tight hips.
The butterfly modification.
Yes.
Yeah.
He suggests sitting with the soles of your feet together so your heels are touching in front of you, like a classic butterfly stretch, but without forcing your knees down.
Just letting gravity do the work over time.
Exactly. He says just sit like that while you're watching TV or while you're listening to a deep dive. Do it passively. Don't turn it into a painful workout. Just let the inner thighs slowly stretch and adapt to the external rotation.
It's a great tip.
And he has another amazing practical tip for spinal alignment, the cushion trick.
This is a classic, highly effective modification.
If you are trying to sit cross-legged on the floor, take a firm cushion or a folded blanket and sit only on the extreme front edge of it, just the edge of your buttocks.
Right on the edge.
What happens is it naturally drops your knees down and tilts your pelvis slightly forward. This completely removes the strain on your lower back, and your spine effortlessly stays straight and free without you having to recruit your core muscles to fight gravity. You don't need to lean back on a wall if your pelvis is tilted correctly.
It's pure biomechanics.
No.
By elevating the hips above the knees, you restore the natural lumbar curve of the spine. Once the vessel is properly shielded by the diet and the architecture is perfectly aligned through the posture, the body is finally ready to handle the core protocol.
And this is it. This is the centerpiece of the entire deep dive. Segment 4, the core protocol. This is the one habit to rule them all.
The main event.
Osman identifies a specific practice called annulum vilum, which translates to alternate nostril breathing with retention. He states unequivocally that this is the absolute most effective method for awakening Kundalini energy safely.
Alternate nostril breathing is quite common in basic yoga classes, but we need to emphasize the phrase, with retention. That is where the actual transformation occurs.
Let's walk the listener through exactly how to physically perform this step by step. First, the setup. You use your right hand, you fold down your index and middle fingers, leaving your thumb and your ring finger extended. These two fingers act as alternating clamps for your nostrils.
The Vishnu Mudra.
Exactly. Your thumb controls the right nostril, your ring finger controls the left nostril.
The mechanical cycle of one single round is highly specific.
Right. So step 1, you use your thumb to close the right nostril, and you inhale deeply through the left nostril. Step 2, you clamp both nostrils shut, sealing the airway completely, and you hold your breath. Step 3, you release the thumb and exhale completely through the right nostril.
But the round is only halfway done at that point.
Exactly. Without pausing, step 4, you immediately inhale through that same right nostril. Step 5, clamp both and hold the breath again. Step 6, release the ring finger and exhale through the left nostril. That entire sequence, in left, hold, X right, in right, hold, X left, constitutes one single round.
The physical manipulation of alternating the nostrils is designed to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain and balance the heating and cooling energy channels in the body. But the true magic, the actual lever that alters human physiology, is the mathematics of the breath.
The golden ratio. Osman insists that for this to work, it must be performed in a strict 1:4:2 ratio.
Meaning, whatever unit of time you spend inhaling, you must multiply that by 4 for the breath hold and multiply it by 2 for the exhale.
Let's break down exactly what that looks like across the 4 progressive levels he maps out. Let's start with level 1. You inhale for 4 seconds. You clamp and hold your breath for 16 seconds. Then you exhale for 8 seconds.
Level 1 is challenging for a beginner, but it is physiologically accessible. A 16-second breath hold will elevate your heart rate slightly if you aren't used to it, but it won't induce panic.
But then you graduate to level 2. The ratio doubles. You inhale for 8 seconds. You hold the breath for 32 seconds. You exhale for 16 seconds. Now we are getting into serious territory.
Very serious.
A 32-second hold after an 8-second slow sip of air requires real focus.
And a 16-second exhale requires incredible control of the diaphragm. You have to let the air out so slowly, almost like a leaky tire, so you don't run out of breath by second 8.
Then comes level 3. Inhale for 12 seconds. Hold for an agonizing 48 seconds. Exhale for 24 seconds. And finally, level 4, the master level.
This is where the sheer physiological demand becomes staggering.
At level 4, you are inhaling for 16 seconds. You are clamping your nose and holding your breath for a massive 64 seconds. Over a minute of zero oxygen intake. And then, while your body is screaming for air, you have to smoothly, calmly exhale for 32 seconds.
If you do the math, a single level 4 breath cycle takes roughly 2 minutes to complete. Just one breath. The discipline, the lung capacity, and the psychological fortitude required to reach that point is immense.
It sounds almost dangerous, which is exactly why Osman issues a severe, non-negotiable safety warning. He says, do not rush to the higher levels, do not let your ego take over, and try level 3 on your first week.
People always try to rush it.
Always. But he warns that depriving the brain of oxygen by skipping the necessary biological stepping stones can cause permanent brain damage.
And physiologically, he is absolutely right. What this protocol does is systematically condition the nervous system. When you hold your breath, carbon dioxide builds up in your bloodstream.
Right.
It is actually the buildup of CO2, not the lack of oxygen, that triggers the intense psychological panic and the reflex to gasp. By gradually increasing the holds over months and years, you're training your chemoreceptors to tolerate extreme levels of carbon dioxide.
You're rewiring your brain's alarm system.
Exactly. And paradoxically, higher CO2 tolerance actually allows red blood cells to release oxygen into the tissues and the brain much more efficiently. You are fundamentally altering your cellular respiration. But if you rush it, your brain panics, your blood pressure spikes dangerously, and you risk hypoxia.
So how do you start safely? Osman emphasizes starting incredibly, almost frustratingly small. He suggests doing just 3 rounds a day of level 1. That's 4 in, 16 hold, 8 out, 3 times. It takes less than 2 minutes. That is your entire starting protocol.
It seems so minimal, but the key is not volume. It is the daily consistency.
Never leave a single day. That is his golden rule. You slowly, incrementally build up from 3 rounds to 21 rounds. Only when 21 rounds of level 1 feels completely effortless do you even think about moving to level 2.
And we really need to address what happens during those breath holds, because it can be terrifying for a beginner.
Yes. If you are listening to this and thinking, I would panic if I held my breath for 32 seconds, Osman has an incredibly comforting way of framing that exact sensation. If you feel suffocation, panic, or claustrophobia during the retention phase, Osman says you shouldn't view this as a failure. You aren't bad at breathing.
He frames that exact sensation of panic as a physical indicator of blocked chakras or energy centers in the body.
I find this so fascinating. He is basically saying that the physical tightness in your chest, the anxiety in your mind, that is the Kundalini energy hitting a knot in your nervous system.
A blockage.
Exactly. The energy wants to flow, but the pathway is clogged by stress, poor diet, or emotional trauma. The feeling of suffocation is the resistance.
And therefore, as the practice gets easier over the weeks and months, as a 32-second hold goes from feeling like torture to feeling like a peaceful pause, it is literal, tangible proof that your internal energetic pathways are clearing out. The physical adaptation of your lungs is mirroring the energetic clearing of your chakras.
It's real-time feedback. You don't have to guess if it's working. Your body tells you. Which brings us to a really beautiful philosophical shift in Osman's teachings. By diligently progressing through these levels, the Kundalini energy rises naturally, smoothly, and most importantly, safely.
He strongly emphasizes that this specific, methodical approach completely liberates the practitioner.
And this is huge. He explicitly states that to achieve this ultimate human optimization, you do not need to seek out a guru. You do not need to travel to India and take Diksha, which is a formal spiritual initiation ceremony.
Right.
You do not need to bind yourself spiritually for multiple lifetimes to a master's lineage, following an endless list of dogmatic rules.
I find this democratization of spiritual practice to be one of the most compelling aspects of his message. If you look closely at the history of ancient traditions, these specific mathematical breathing ratios and retentions were incredibly closely guarded secrets. They were the highest esoteric tech.
They kept it hidden.
Absolutely hidden. To learn the 1:4:2 ratio, you historically had to show absolute devotion. You had to perform years of menial tasks and deep servitude for a guru before you were deemed worthy of receiving the technique.
They gate-kept the breath.
They absolutely did. And Osman is effectively open-sourcing the ultimate spiritual hack. He is bypassing the hierarchy.
I absolutely love the empowering nature of this. He is telling you you are your own guru. Your breath is your initiation. You have the exact same hardware in your chest as the most enlightened mystic in history. You just have to follow the manual.
It strips away all the mystical dependency and replaces it with personal accountability. It's no longer about whether the guru favors you, it's about whether you put in the minutes every single morning on the cushion.
But this raises a very practical question for the listener. Why go through all of this effort? Why change your diet, stretch your hips for months to sit in Siddhasana, and spend years agonizingly building up to a 2-minute breath cycle? What is the actual payoff?
The ROI of breath.
Exactly. What happens when you finally reach level 4 and your channels are completely clear? According to Osman, the promised benefits are absolutely staggering. He
Yeah.
breaks them down into physical, psychological, and life path categories.
Let's start with the physical claims because they are profound.
Osman claims that once your channels are clear, your immune system becomes incredibly, almost supernaturally robust. He states that 90% of common illnesses will simply not affect you anymore. Your body becomes an inhospitable environment for pathogens.
That's a massive claim.
It is. Furthermore, your VO2 max, the maximum rate of oxygen your body can use during exercise, skyrockets. Your physical endurance dramatically improves, and he even notes that your baseline physical strength in the gym can almost double without necessarily adding mass.
Which sounds like science fiction until you break down the metabolic reality of what a level 4 breath practice does to the human machine.
Yeah.
If you are regularly holding your breath for 64 seconds, you have radically optimized your cellular oxygen exchange.
Your cells are just better at using it.
Exactly. Your cells are operating at peak metabolic efficiency. When the nervous system is perfectly regulated, the body stops wasting massive amounts of baseline energy fighting phantom stressors or low-grade inflammation. That conserved energy has to go somewhere. It goes into immune defense, muscular output, and stamina.
It's like turning off all the background apps on your phone. Suddenly, the battery lasts twice as long and the processor is lightning fast. And the psychological benefits he lists are even wilder than the physical ones.
He makes a very bold claim regarding mental health.
He claims 100% immunity to chronic psychological ailments. Now, let's be very clear about how he defines this. He explicitly says you will still feel normal human emotions. If you lose a loved one, you will feel deep sadness. If you are in a car accident, you will feel acute stress. You do not become a numb robot.
But the key word is chronic.
Yes, he says those acute emotions will never spiral into chronic lingering states. You will have immunity to chronic anxiety, chronic depression, and chronic stress. It will hit your system, you will process it, and it will wash out immediately.
That alone is life-changing.
Completely. Furthermore, he claims this protocol completely protects against later life cognitive decline, specifically mentioning conditions like dementia or Alzheimer's. He asserts that instead of decaying, your memory actually becomes increasingly sharper and more vivid as you age.
If we look at the neurology behind that, chronic anxiety and depression are often linked to a nervous system that is trapped in a sympathetic fight-or-flight loop. The amygdala is constantly firing. Advanced pranayama physically forces the nervous system into a deep, parasympathetic rest and digest state.
It trains the off switch.
Exactly. It increases vagal tone. You are literally training your brain to snap back to baseline immediately after a stressor. And regarding cognitive decline, the massive daily rushes of oxygenated blood to the brain during the exhale phases would theoretically promote aggressive neurogenesis and protect brain tissue.
It is preventative medicine on a bioelectric level. And finally, Osman talks about how this affects your overall life and your path. He says that when your energy is this perfectly balanced, your external reality begins to shift.
It ripples outward.
It really does. You naturally begin to attract the right people into your life. He even specifically mentions attracting a soulmate. You suddenly discover your true purpose with crystal clarity, and you find financial and career success simply because you now operate with a newfound, unshakable self-discipline.
It all cascades from the breath. When your mind is completely clear of chronic anxiety, when your body is not exhausted by inflammation, you naturally make better, more precise life choices. You don't react out of fear or desperation.
You're just calm.
You become highly observant. That kind of calm, grounded presence is magnetic in relationships, and it is highly effective in business. It isn't magic. It is the natural byproduct of operating at your highest biological frequency.
It is the ultimate domino effect. Okay, let's pull all of this together and recap this incredible journey for the listener. It is a unified protocol. It starts with deep respect for the physical vessel flooding the body with cold processed omega-3s, raw cruciferous enzymes, and eliminating the chaotic rejasic stimulation of garlic and onions.
Then, you literally rebuild the architecture of your body. You train your hips and spine to hold Siddhasana, ensuring the physical pathway from the root to the crown is perfectly aligned, straight, and completely uncompressed by chairs or couches.
And once the vessel is primed and aligned, you apply the lever. The immense, unwavering daily discipline of the 1:4:2 annulum-vilum breathing ratio, slowly, patiently stepping up from level 1 all the way to the mind-bending 2-minute breath cycles of level 4.
Which culminates in a total physiological reset, a physical, psychological, and energetic transformation that frees you from the need for external gurus, putting the absolute power of healing and awakening directly into your own hands.
And as a reminder to everyone listening, Osman is incredibly generous with this foundational knowledge. He offers his entire 5-minute yoga and meditation program completely for free on his website. You can find all of that at yogawellness786.com. That site also has all the information regarding his master-level critical care healing services and one-on-one consultations if you want to explore his more advanced personalized work.
This deep dive really leaves us with a lingering, almost unsettling, but deeply inspiring thought. Think about your day. We all take roughly 20,000 breaths every single day, and we do it almost entirely on autopilot.
Just completely unconscious of it.
Exactly. If Osman is right, and 50 years of practice and a 90% critical care success rate strongly suggest he is onto something profound, if manipulating just a tiny fraction of those 20,000 breaths can literally armor our immune system, double our physical strength, completely rewire our mental health, and protect our brains from cognitive decay.
It makes you wonder.
It does. How much of our true human potential is currently lying completely dormant inside of us right this second, just waiting for us to finally pay attention and take control of the wheel?